Welcome to The Springer Show, the voice of conservative truth. I'm Brian Springer, your host, and today we're ripping into a gut punch issue. Transgender women, born male, bulldozing women's sports. Fairness? Biology? Title IX. We're unpacking it all, no filter. The left is losing their minds. Senate Democrats just torched a bill to save women's games, and we've got the stats to make your blood boil. Let's dive in. This one's going to sting. Hello, America. Today, we're going to talk about transgender women in women's sports. Let's start off with talking about Title IX, what it is and why it matters. Before we torch the transgender debate, we're talking about Title IX because without it, women's sports wouldn't even be a thing. Back in 1972, President Nixon signed this bad boy into law. 37 words that flipped the entire script. No person in the U.S. shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program getting federal cash. Boom. That's it. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy to understand. Before Title IX, girls were lucky to even get a gym class, let alone a scholarship. In 1971, only 1% of college athletic budgets went to women. Guys hogged it all for football and beer pong. High school, the boys outplayed the girls 12.5 to 1. 12.5 to 1. Then Title IX kicked in, and by 2025, we've got 3.5 million girls in high school sports, up from 300,000 pre-law, and 44% of college athletes are women. 44% of college athletes are women. That's almost half. It's why your daughter's got a shot at a hoops scholarship instead of cheerleading the boys on the sidelines. Why does it matter, though? It's about fairness. It's about giving women a lane to run in, not just a sideline to clap from. A February 2025 UN report says Title IX is given 600 female athletes podium spots since 2015. That would have been dust without it. But now, that lane's getting crashed, and we are not standing for this. I'll tell you what, hold that thought. Let's lighten the load a little bit with a little tune. We're going to discuss the glory of women's sports before the woke brigade tried to rewrite the rule book. When we come back, we'll hit the transgender takeover hard.
Turned on the TV, nearly fell on my face. A linebacker named Linda just won first place. Taking gold medals, breaking all the rules, but the girls in the race, they're looking like fools. It's the great transanity, the world's gone wild. Boys in the girls' room, coach just smiled. Follow the science, they keep telling me, but we're stuck in the circus of identity. In women's weightlifting, here comes Big Ben. Now Brenda's the champ, and they're clapping again. Broke all the records with the flex and a grin, but the real girls whisper, we can't ever win. It's the great transanity, the logic's out of style. Men taking trophies while the girls lose by a mile. Fair play's forgotten, it's a crazy spree. We're trapped in this madhouse of identity. Call you what But sports ain't the place for your identity blues. You can't change the facts, no matter how you feel. This ain't about hate, it's about keeping it real. Miss America's crown, it's gone to a dude. Now beauty pageants got the girls feeling screwed. The cheerleaders scratching their heads in defeat, 'cause a bearded Sally's now joining the team. It's the great Transanity, the truth's gone mute. Boys in stilettos taking girls' pursuits. Cancel me quick if you disagree, but let's bring back reality, can't you see? Here's to the women, the real pioneers, fighting for fairness all these years. Let's stop the madness, let truth ring free, and end this long chapter of Transanity.
All right, that sure was a banger, wasn't it? A little head nod to when women's sports had teeth. That's from the guys over at, Lord, I'm probably going to even say it wrong, Quidan Productions. I'm probably butchering that. It's Quidan Productions. Over at YouTube, they've got a bunch of great videos. Go check these guys out. Make sure you follow their content. They have a lot of videos over there that will just make you bust a gut laughing. Now, it's time to get dirty. Let's talk about science first, because the left hates it when it doesn't bend. A 2021 British Journal of Sports Medicine study says transgender women, i.e. men, keep a 12% edge in running speed after 2 years of hormone therapy. A 2024 Journal of Applied Physiology update says muscle mass stays 20 to 30% higher than biological women's years after transitioning. That's not a feeling, folks. That's physics. That is science. You can't get around that. I mean, as much as during COVID, the Dems kept wanting to holler, follow science, follow science. Well, now let's follow the science. Leah Thomas, you remember her or him? The one that went from meh in men's swimming to crushing women's NCAA titles in 22. It's still kind of a sore spot, and there's lawsuits flying around even now in 2025. Last year, a transgender volleyballer in California spiked a ball so hard it concussed a girl. The video is viral, X is raging, and the UN's February 2025 tally says 890 medals have been swiped from women since 2015. This ain't equality. That's erasure. They are completely erasing women out of their own sport. This is insanity. It's absolutely mad. There's no reason for this. That young lady who, in California, had the volleyball hit her in the head, knocked her unconscious for several minutes, and from what I understand, is now suffering through some paralysis. There's not a lot of good you can say about this. So it's, her name was Peyton McNabb. I'm sorry, I had to look this up real quick. Her name was Peyton McNabb, and she ended up having a TBI, or traumatic brain injury, a concussion, and paralysis on her right side with whiplash and vision problems. She had dreams of getting a volleyball college scholarship, but now she can barely walk without falling. McNabb says that she does continue to struggle to move the right side of her body, leading her to regularly lose her balance and suffer from falls. That's just one story. In regards to Leah Thomas, Riley Gaines, a very proud, a very strong and brave young lady, had to go up against Riley Gaines, who swept championship from her. In Leah Thomas, if you see this transgender person next to Riley, Leah towers over Riley. Was a male swimmer, apparently not that good, so he decided he wanted to be a she and try to compete with them. And, of course, breaking records. I mean, just doing an awesome job because he's stronger and faster. I mean, you're not on the same playing field. It's not level. It's not fair. Absolutely not. So, speaking of fairness now, Title IX was built for it. Women fought for decades to get fairness. They clawed themselves out of the kitchen and onto the field. But now, Senate Democrats spit all over fairness. On March 3rd of this year, 2025, every single Senate Democrat voted down the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, or S9. It would have banned transgender women from women's sports in any school taking federal money. The House passed this bill in January, but the Senate decided to filibuster it and killed it with a 51-45 vote out of the 60 needed. NBC Washington blared, "Dems block bill to ban trans athletes." X lit up. One dad posted, "My girl's track dreams crushed by a 6'3" dude." I'll tell you what, the people are absolutely not buying this. They're getting tired of it, and rightfully so. January's New York Times poll says 79% of Americans say sports should stick to birth sex. 67% of Democrats were included. March's Gallup poll, 81% said the same exact thing. Even Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, the woke's poster boy, he slipped on March 6th to the BBC, and he also spoke to Charlie Kirk in an interview on his own podcast, and I mean his own, Gavin Newsom's podcast. Apparently he has his own now, and I really don't want to listen to it, so I can't speak on it. But on his podcast, speaking to Charlie Kirk and also talking to the BBC, he said it's deeply unfair. He doesn't believe in the fairness of the transgender woman playing in women's sports either. But the NCAA is still letting transgender women snag 14% of women's titles in 2024 per Icons. That is not a game. That is a heist. Why is there even a conversation to be had here? Now, you can go back and forth with conversations like this and say, well, oh, you're transphobic. You don't like trans people. Let me make this clear. If you are an adult and you want to transition, male or female, either way, you are responsible. You pay your bills. You go to work. You live your life. And you decide you want to distort, alter, change, whatever, your body to accurately represent what you think you should have been or would be. I don't really care. That has not a thing to do with me. You are not here paying my bills. You are not here feeding me food. You are nothing in my life. I've known transgender people, and I tell them, I will support your right to transition if you want to. I don't care, because we are endowed by our creators with the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is their pursuit of happiness. My thing is, I don't want you to shove it in my face. I am not forced to recognize your pronouns because that's how you feel now. I do not have to go along with your transition. That's your thing. But when you take that transition and now you want to play in sports, if it's because you feel like you need to feel better than the women, if you feel like you just are a woman now, so you should accurately reflect that by playing in women's sports, either way, any reason you come up with is not okay. Men's sports are for men. Women's sports are for women. Somebody even said, but Brian, if we allow the transgender to have their own sports, then it will still be men playing against women and women playing against men. Okay, I see your point there. Well, you would have to divide that even further, wouldn't you? In the Transgender Sports Association, the TSA, if you will, you would have to have a trans women's division, trans men's division. So the trans men would play against each other and the trans women would play against each other, which essentially is men against men and women against women. Isn't that interesting? That's about the only way you can do it, really, to appease not everybody. Not everybody's going to be happy, but the majority, I think. Give them their own sports association. Let them play each other. I don't know what else to do, but they need to get out of women's sports. There's no room for them there. I mean, do you see trans men, as they're called, women transitioning into men? Do you see them trying to join the NFL? Could you imagine? Now, I'm not saying that women are a weaker sex, not by any stretch of the imagination. But biologically, physically, we are born different. While we are all created equal in His image, we are biologically different. Our bodies are different for a reason, for different tasks, for different things that we may need to do in life or should do, our responsibilities in life. I mean, you don't think about a woman carrying a large load of logs on her shoulder to come back and feed the fire in the cabin. No. But you also don't see or think about, a big, burly 6'3" man in the kitchen with an apron and a wooden spoon stirring some food to feed the family. The lines are blurred these days, and they continue to get blurred more and more. And women's sports is another one. So, with the information that we have on transgender women and women's sports, and we can see that the numbers are growing, and people are getting pretty upset about this. Who's fighting back? Who's trying to fight this going forward? Well, I'll tell you what. President Trump's February 5th, 2025 executive order already yanked federal funds from schools that let transgender women into women's sports. Bam, done, over with. So far, Texas and Florida, they've locked down their sports with state bans. So Senator Tommy Tuberville's, S9 might have tanked. But I'll tell you what, the war is on. CBS Austin said, trans athletes bill blocked amid debate. Well, yeah, the bill was blocked. The Democrats, every single one of them, voted against it. And they want to debate it. They want to talk about it. They want to change it. They just don't want to be the ones to say, well, I put my name on a bill that says we're not going to allow transgender athletes to play in women's sports or remove federal funding. Anyway, meanwhile, the Olympics and the NCAA limp along with their flimsy testosterone rules. Pathetic. Ex-users are absolutely feral. One ex-user wrote, Title IX is dead if men can just say they're women. Yeah, I can understand that. And get this. On March 9th, the Washington Examiner piece, a Washington Examiner piece quotes Andy Kim suggesting communities decide. Communities? You want the community to decide? This isn't a bake sale. This is biology. What in the hell are we letting communities decide? We're not letting these woke clowns dismantle 50 years of women's grit. They have fought and clawed their way to rights, to be able to have the same rights as men. And when President Trump came into office, I heard a lot of these Democrats on the left screaming, "Oh my God, he's coming to take women's rights. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my rights as a woman. Oh my Lord." He hasn't done that. He's actually trying to protect women's rights. But where are they now? Where are you? They're not speaking up now. They're not coming out saying, hey, wait a minute. We have these rights. I have a right to play in a volleyball game. I have a right to swim on a swim team. I have a right to play basketball, baseball, softball, football, whatever I want to play as a woman, and not have to compete against a man on a woman's team. Now, there are co-ed sports. That's different. Take NASCAR, for example. Even auto racing as a whole. Years ago, to think of a woman in auto racing was absolutely absurd. But now you have the Force daughters. Or at least Brittany Force. I honestly don't know if there's more than one at this point. You've got females in NASCAR. This is fine. These are sports where people are breaking into all the time. It's not just the white male in these sports anymore. That's fine. But you're out here on a contact sport, volleyball, swimming, football, baseball, softball, where these men have an advantage physically over you. It's not an even playing field for you guys. There should be no reason we don't fight this every day until it's done. Anyway, in closing, just let me say this. Title IX gave women a fighting chance, built on blood, sweat, and reality. Transgender women in sports? It's not hate. It's biology. It's math. Senate Democrats proved they would rather pander than protect. This is The Springer Show, where conservative truth does not flinch. Hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, or X. Like, follow, comment, and share. I appreciate every one of you, and I hope to see you again here next time. God bless.